Welcome back to the Dopesick Show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer and this is Sasha. I spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but I've been off heroin since April 9th, 2010. Got a lot of stories about the dumb stuff I did to get put in prison. I've also got a lot of stories about the crazy stuff that happened when I was actually in prison. And God forbid you end up in prison. You want to make some of the same mistakes I made. So, I ended up having to go to this place. Basically, the agreement was I got 90 days of treatment. And they let it go. I was under 18, so I ended up going to this Christian rehab. I spent 45 days there, then 45 days somewhere else. I had to get out of that place. That place was a freak show. It messed up. They should all be closed. It's coming under fire nationwide because it's a messed up, funky place. Anyway, before I left, party and stuff, everything else. And one of my friends, I talked about the guy who was a friend. Older brother, one of my friends, he's just a couple years ahead of us though, but he would drive us back and forth. He got his license before we did. Well, he had seen me with a whole bunch of money, and I was getting ready to go to this rehab anyway. He'd seen where I kept this money. So I had told, I got worried about that with him, so I told him, I ended up telling a bunch of people, that I buried it out in the backyard. So that's something that comes in later. But anyway, I go, and there's this also somebody else. Okay, this one of our friends' moms. He looks like a 30-year-old, even though he's like 16 or 17. He was probably about 18 at this point, because I was about 16 or 17. He looks like a 30-year-old, and he's got a speech impediment. There was like a story about his mom was pregnant with him, got knocked down the stairs by her ex when she was pregnant with him, and he got a speech impediment. Looked like a little chubby man. He did. He's young. Even when he was in high school, he looked like that. And his older brother was known for fighting and being involved in some wild stuff. But anyway, we went over to their house a number of times. I sold stuff to his mom, and there were a couple times. One time I heard she was going to try to scam me, on something. I can't remember the exact whole thing, but I knew she's going to try to do it, and she's going to act like she could get me a prescription or something for a deal if I could just hook her up until she could get it taken care of. So I went over there and I gave her line after line, and I was like, well, I've got to keep this much, so is there something I can mix with? And there was Carpet Fresh, which was mixed baking soda, so I replaced what was missing out, Carpet Fresh. And then I'm like, well, do you want some more? And I kept giving her more. It wasn't a huge amount, but I had a certain amount I was willing to lose, but I kept adding Carpet Fresh with what she'd done, and she ended up ingesting a whole bunch of Carpet Fresh, and I just laughed at that. It was funny watching her face, but being willing to do it. But anyhow, I'd heard, when I was at that Christian rehab place, something about there being footprints my mom's back porch, like somebody had tried to check the back door to see if it was unlocked. And I got to thinking about that one guy. Like I said, I got thinking about him, and I was like, I didn't know who it was, didn't have nothing to say about it. And then I heard something else. I heard that woman I just mentioned had called my mom saying something about I had stolen money from her, I guess trying to get it back from my mom. And my mom's like, he isn't even in the city. He's gone. That's not possible. And then she started on some tirade saying about, oh, I don't know how there aren't people in your backyard with shovels. There's money that your son's buried out there and this, and that. I'd found a good hiding spot for it, but I told everybody that. So she went ahead and told my mom that. I was like, oh, Lord, get me in all kinds of trouble. And anyway, I come back home after spending the 90 days out there, and I'm driving along, and I notice I'm being followed. Feels like I'm being followed. It's a car full of people, and I knew how to drive that car, that S2000, Honda S2000. It's back in the Fast and Furious days. That's like something of my generation. That S2000, I could drive that car. I drove it for fun. I drove the back roads going around the corners. That's an awesome car. There were numerous road test race like things to see which car performed the best, and stock from the factory, it's a quick car anyway, but you know, around like in a road test, like where you're actually doing corners, not just a straightaway, you beat out a lot of cars that cost about triple what it cost. It's a good car. So it wasn't just me, knowing how to handle it. It was the car. The car, it was an incredible car for handling corners. So anytime I ended up in a situation where somebody chased me, and see, driving for the biggest dealer in my city, there were a number of times that they'd have people posted at different places, so when I got back in the city, they could follow me and try to run me off the road and take what I got. And sometimes I had $6,000 worth, sometimes I had $20,000 worth, and that's wholesale. I mean, you're talking about retail, it's a whole lot, and they would have left me in a ditch somewhere probably. So my whole strategy when that type of thing happened, I had certain rules and certain things I knew to come up with myself. So I would never, if I'm in a stoplight, I would stop probably about 10 foot behind the car in front of me. That way I could cut to the left, cut to the right. I could get around them. Even if I have to go into opposing traffic, I can get out of there. If I knew there were a number of rules like that. But my main thing was I was going to try to get to a place, to the back roads. I had a series of back roads. One was Catawba Mountain. See, Roanoke, Catawba Mountain is where I used to drive the biggest dealer in my city. I used to drive him every day after we got done setting up shop. We had the one trap apartment, then his mom's apartment. I'd be running back and forth. His mom's apartment was where he stashed at, but we drive to the country at night. Catawba Mountain, I knew those roads. There's a back way into my mom's house. I knew those roads, and it goes over a mountain. There wasn't going to be anybody catching me. I would drive these roads. I would drive it for fun. I would just put some music on and drive fast around these corners for fun. I knew it like the back of my hand. So I notice I'm getting followed. My main thing is I've got to get to these. I got to get to these back roads. Okay, if they get me at a stoplight, something like that, yeah, something could happen. But if I can get to my back roads, I'm going to be all right. And this right here was before all that stuff with me driving the Kingpin. This actually probably, because the story about this circulated around a good bit, about me outrunning these guys a couple of times. And I think that might have been something as a contributing factor as to why he had me drive for him. That, and I got pulled over with the Kingpin. I got pulled over with his brother. He saw how I handled the cops and acted like I was just scared to death of a ticket. My mom was going to kill me, and you would never guess that I'd had drugs on me at the time. But anyway, yeah, it was before I started driving for him because I was 16. Yeah, so I see they're following me, and I start going towards, the back roads that go behind my mom's house, past over the mountain. And as soon as I hit them, boom, I lose them quick. Within 30 seconds, I'm so far ahead of them on these curvy roads. They don't know these roads, okay? They're going to go, and there's one corner that literally does like this. I'll do a video of it, do a short of it or something. But if you don't know what you're doing, people have gone right over the hill on that one. So I just take off and I do that. And this happens a couple times, and there's some time that, expires between us. Now, the one guy who's the older brother, one of my friends, just a couple years ahead, he drive me back and forth back before I had a license. I go over to his house. Hadn't seen him in a minute. Been gone for a few months. And his mom opens the door, and she's like, I don't know if you should be here. And she says something to the husband. He's like, nope, get him out of here. And I'm thinking, what did I do? And, I don't know. I don't know what I've done. And anyway, come to find out, what I'd ultimately find out was I saw the one son with the speech impediment. And I went up and talked to him. And, and he said something asked something question. I said, dude, I set up documentation of where I was gone at this treatment facility. How could I have done that? I said, you are confused about what's going on or whatever. And he said, and I think I even, might have had something from it, like discharge papers or something, might have had it in the car. And he like, I bet the deck you, Pincer. I bet the deck you, because I thought you thought with my mama. And he talked kind of funny. And I couldn't figure it out. It just all seemed so weird. Because people went to his house. People got high at his house. His mom got high with us. His mom, oh man, she looked like a broke down trailer dope fiend. I mean, she was busted. But I couldn't figure out, they act like I stole money out of her purse during the time that I was at this treatment facility. So even to this day, like I've thought about this over the last few years, and I've pretty much come up with a theory that I think is pretty legitimate. I think it makes the most sense. Okay. She would give pills to the one guy who I went to his house and his parents told me to go away. She'd give pills to his parents. They'd trade pills back and forth. The guy who I was speaking of was the guy who drove me back and forth to get blowback when I was in the Catholic school before I had a license. But he would always, he'd middleman blow all the time. So, $150, that was about a typical price for an 8-ball back then. The best thing that I can figure that happened was he got $150 from her. He was supposed to go get her an 8-ball. He took the money for himself. He used it himself, and he blamed it on me. Because his parents told me I shouldn't be over there. And he told his parents that I stole this woman's $150. Why would he tell them that? Well, first off, I know for sure he had to have done it if his parents think I did it. Because why would he tell that lie? That doesn't make a bit of sense. Not a bit of sense on the planet. And, that's the best thing I can figure was he told her, yeah, I'll get you an 8-ball. And he told her he was going to get it from me. And then he told her I ripped him off and said, screw you guys, And, yeah, it never happened. But anyway, it was her sons and one of their friends that, it was a couple times they tried chasing me. And then, the one time I saw her son, I went up and talked to him. He could tell I wasn't scared, wasn't worried about nothing or anything like that. So, I mean, it all ended up getting, resolved once I saw him. It's like, you know how some people say, I'm going to whoop him when I see him. Then they see him and they're like, they don't do that. That's basically what her son did. But, and I'm pretty sure that when I was in that little Christian teen rehab, that it was the same guy that said that I stole her money. I'm pretty sure that he remembered me pulling out all that money that I pulled out in front of him, that I ended up telling him that I buried it in the backyard. I'm pretty sure he was going to go check that spot, see if I was really lying or if I was telling the truth. And that's why there were footprints in the snow on the back deck, which that was, some frustrating stuff. But anyway, it's a weird time. It was a weird bunch of stuff, weird bunch of circumstances. But sometimes when people get in that type of thing and they get in those type of situations and they get in a certain level of addiction, their give a damn gets busted and they just say, screw it. Go gutter like a mother, get every penny they can from anybody they can. And that's pretty much what he did. He had a bad reputation for that. There was another story, well actually I'll leave this for a separate one, but him and his girlfriend who, she's passed away, she ain't with us anymore, and that's really sad too. Yeah, that one's really sad. She's good. She's a good person. She's a little crazy. She's a hustler and everything else, but she was a good friend. They were hitting people for weapons. They had a system, of getting in houses and getting them, and they were hitting a bunch of people for that. They hit it, but I'm pretty sure it was him that set it up, to get his own friends, because that didn't messed up. You don't rob your friends. Even if you are involved in that stuff, it wasn't something I ever did, I did a lot of stuff I regret, but there's a level of morals to it. You don't rob your friends. You don't rob people that deserve it. If you're in that life, you don't rob your friends. Is how I thought of it back then. Of course, now I see don't rob any. You don't do any of that because you're gonna end up in prison. I've matured a lot, grown up a lot since then. But anyways, that's about it. If you liked the video, press the like button. If not, it's 14 minutes and 40 seconds of your life in which you'll never get back. Have a good one.